Recording started.
Oh, Stephanie's going to do her own thing here. That's great. Okay. Recording.
Now, will that have to be on Desiree's computer though? I don't know how this works. Or is it in a cloud?
I think I can do it, but I'm not positive. Record on this computer. Okay, so
recording in progress.
Thank you.
If Desiree goes ahead, then no harm done.
Cool.
Okay, here in Pullman, I'm going to see if I can get this TV over here hooked up to my Mac. So wish me luck. But
Good luck.
No need to hold up.
Okay. We can't start yet. I'm having sound issues. Okay. So we're going to wait just a moment. It looks like we have some sound issues, technical concerns. Once they're up, we will get started.
Somewhere among the computer pool of doctors.
Oh no. And Alan, did you say you were able to record this?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay.
Are you able to hear this?
I can hear everything, but it looks like Desiree's having a hard time with audio on her end.
Okay, I'm using a microphone that we can pass around because the echoes are so bad in this room. Does that work for you too? I'll just leave it over here. Lots of adapters in your it's here.
I am messaging Desiree right now to see if we could possibly move forward. I can communicate by typing with her. Bev, is there, if Desiree's not able to get her sound working, are there any things that you would be able to do to support in Desiree's absence?
I can certainly take notes and put the minutes in after the meeting.
Okay.
So I've got pen and paper. I'm doing it right here.
Okay. And then Alan, you're able to share your screen if you need to for the financials.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, share screen is highlighted, so I think that's proposed.
Now I can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
There you are. So there's a concern that with her recording, there might not be audio. So, that Alan, you're able to record onto your device.
Yes, it's recording right now. I will start another screen share app I have and we'll make double share of that. If we have time. Yes, well, I'm recording. I'm recording twice.
You got the recording on?
Yes.
Okay. On. Okay, so Desiree's good. So Alan, you're going to record. Bev, you're going to take notes. All right, we are almost all here, which is fine. We are going to go ahead and get this started now. This is, I'm going to go ahead and start with recording attendance. Oh no, I am the host now. So we're going to go ahead and start with attendance. Bev Wolf.
Here.
Alan McPhee.
Here.
Michelle Bosley.
Here.
Stephanie here. Chris Albano. All right, Chris in there. We don't have Chris. Efren Ramos.
Here.
Hello. Hi. And Robin McDonald here. I believe everyone is here except for Chris. So we do have quorum. So I'm going to call this meeting of the Pullman Community Montessori Board of Trustees to order, 6/20/2024 at 5:24 p.m. And we're just going to go ahead and jump in with the finance update. Bev, super quick, Katie Silverstein was going to originally do this, and now Alan is going to be the presenter. Do we need to make any motions to change that?
I'm not sure, but just to be on the safe side, let me propose that we authorize Alan McPhee to update the board on the financials at this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. All right. So Alan, if you want to go ahead and give us the update on financials.
We'll do a round. Let's see.
Oh, can you speak up or mic up?
Yeah, paging through. Okay. At the top of this page, I see Pullman Community Montessori budget versus actuals. Does anybody not see that?
We're good.
Okay.
Oh, you have a hand raised.
Laura,
Screen share appears to be working. Bev, are you able to see the screen share?
I am.
Okay.
Clearly.
Okay.
Okay. I'll pause just a moment. Laura, please raise your hand if you can see them. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because the root causes of variances are repetitive this late in the school year and haven't changed very much, and also because, well, the future has changed. This is all of our accounts, local donations. We know that they're under. Yes, they're under. That was a budgetary assumption that we've wondered about. Others, private foundation grants, more. Now this is all year to date, September 23 through May 24. So we're now what, 3 months, I think, short of the end of the fiscal year. So 9/12. If all of our spending was linear, which it isn't, but if it were, we would see these variances all be 75%, but we know that's not the case. Our revenue sources have changed significantly. So again, I won't go through all those individually because the landscape has changed and there is some explanation to come of actual versus budget variances. I don't have a lot to discuss here where we compare this month to last month. And again, the significance of this comparison will pale as we move toward closure. I don't like saying that, but there it is. Okay. Please feel free to raise your hand if you want me to focus on any more of this or maybe afterwards. Now here's where we show actual and budget variances and the root causes. Again, year to date. So we've got 9 months here, actual, 9 months there, budget, and over here in this column where it says forecast, I don't know if you can see my mouse bouncing up and down. Forecast is, I think as of last month, this was refreshed to be, or it would be this month, 9 months of actual, 3 months of forecast. I doubt that we'll be doing that given the change in the landscape, like I said. But we know we've had a reduction in local donations because we possibly were optimistic. We were optimistic in forecasting them and budgeting them. And lost revenue, $400,000 year to date. $400,000 low year to date due to loss of enrollment, although that's somewhat compensated by addition of levy equalization, something that we've enjoyed each year that we've been in business, but it's not something that's committed, therefore we don't budget for it. Happy news that we got it. This may not spend full CSP grant, that's probably given at this point. CSP is Charter School Program, the federal program to help charter schools get off the ground. We received a $1.5 million grant up front, and then we can spend against that grant as we document purchases. Again, going forward, that's not an issue. Personnel down 140K due to drop in salaries and another 70 drop in benefits. In this relationship, about 50% benefits as to labor cost. That's pretty typical for PCM and also in my experience. The contingency, it doesn't, that's something we earn as we go, but we've used it. It's, I think 3%, or am I confusing that with the state oversight fee? But it's a percent of our spending anyway that we kind of save against unforeseen circumstances. And that's been all used up because we've had a lot of unforeseen circumstances. All in all then, we have all expenditures about $400,000 under and about the same under forecast. The balance sheet, I'm not going to spend much time at all on that. In previous finance committee meetings, I've explained what that means in terms of total assets and total liabilities. And I have explained that our liabilities exceed our assets. Therefore, that's one way to look at insolvency. But for this meeting, let's just think about this. As we move toward insolvency, I'm familiar with commercial bankruptcies, and in a 501c3, the process is similar. As we move forward, most of these values will change. They have to, because one of the assumptions behind a balance sheet is we're going to be in business to utilize all of these things on the balance sheet. That's not the case. So in the course of things going forward for the next 2 or 3 months, these values will change, but we don't have enough information yet to know by how much or which ones will. Stay tuned on that. When we move toward our audited financials as of the end of August 2024, then those adjustments will likely be booked. We'll be working with our auditors on that. And again, we've got a May versus April month-on-month comparison. And again, given where we're going in the near future toward closure, then these comparisons don't mean a lot right now, and they'll mean less as time goes on. Okay, questions so far from the board?
Was there anything in this last month that was like any alarming spending or anything that was dramatically different than we expected?
This right here, Robin, contracted services miscellaneous. Part of that, the 10,000 is a monthly cost for our most excellent back office support. The other 5,000 I don't remember, and I did not look it up before this meeting.
Was it possibly Janelle?
It could be Janelle. Okay, you're right. I was thinking it was legal, but that's probably someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know she was considered a contractor, so that would make sense. We could
That's
probably
right. And then her cost is compensated in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, not really, Robin. There's nothing that jumps out especially. State miscellaneous revenue, there was none of that, although there was previous month. That's because we had that participation in levy equalization in April, non-recurring, not unexpected, but non-recurring. And May, we've been told that May is a low apportionment month, and you can see that. April was much higher. In fact, in April, I believe we had some makeup from March because of an issue with a filing. April, therefore, was unusually high. May, because of the timing of apportionment receipts, is typically low. So,
and then, as far as the amount that were underspent, will we be receiving additional funding through the summer months, or is that all we have to close with?
I understand from the state charter from Washington Commission on Charter Schools that we will receive apportionment funding through the end of August. Through August, I should say. So it continues to the end of the school year.
Cool.
Alan, if looking at the financial dashboard and the notes at the bottom, I'm wondering if we have some sort of estimate on how many days cash in hand will end the school year with, by August 31st. I think it was the last, as far as I remember, I think it was the last of the documents.
Oh, there we go, back there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Thank you for that, Bev. Well, we have at this point 34 days, and I'm hesitating because I don't really know at this point, Bev, what the effect of our impending dissolution will be on how we foresaw the timing of costs. But
okay.
at this point, it looks like 34 days.
Okay, thank you.
And I would have gotten to this eventually, but thank you, Bev. I should have gone to this first. It's all red as it was last month. No surprises there. Other questions before we go through the registers of spending? Okay. And
I do have one still for that, the dashboard, unless you want to do it afterwards. I'm sorry, I sort of jumped ahead.
No, that's, you didn't jump ahead. I should have actually gone to this first. Okay, back to the dashboard. There we go.
I was just wondering how we're doing on the dropping down the missing documentation.
Oh, down here, 32,000. I don't remember the value last month. 2 months ago, it was in the 40s. So we are at least holding and maybe reducing that, which is a very good thing. Very good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would expect that to be minimal, if anything, from here on, because we don't have any, well, we have very little office staff left here.
One.
Yeah, that's right. Questions, and Robin and Bev, have I fully answered your questions so far?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. These are available as you wish to use them. Transaction detail by account. There we go. The bill payment lists. These are the bills that we paid in May. The list is growing ever shorter. Yeah, there you go. You are absolutely right, Robin. That other $5,000 in contractors was Janelle. There she is, right there. And we have our rent and another for Janelle. Again, those are compensated by increased revenue to cover her.
And I did confirm with JGP and Watchers both that we had received all of the funding to cover her already. So that's something that we have received in full. We're not waiting for any reimbursements. It's good.
Okay, thank you. Daily transaction by account. This is, excuse me, our bank account. And these are, if memory serves, these are those things that Bev asked about, which is matters that don't pass through the accounts payable system of Jewel Growth Partners. And it's actually totals to -3, but again, Bev, we're on the right track. We have reduced or even eliminated possibly those local costs that don't go through the JGP system. That's
Can I
okay.
And then
just
just really
Sorry.
quick, the transfer from the private checking. Would you be able to, I remember when we did that, and was that from the, like the donation funds? I forgot exactly what that was.
From private funds? Well,
Private.
yeah, in our banking, we segregate between state revenue and other revenue. And if the account that contains state revenue is insufficient to meet our liquidity needs, then we make transfers as necessary from private funds. And at that point, of course, the segregation becomes moot. I think Jewel Growth told me that we have never made a transfer the other way from public to private funds, and it would seem kind of weird to do that. But that's why, Robin.
Cool.
Yeah, if we don't have enough left over from apportionment, then we tap what we have in private funds.
Can I ask a question about the transparent classroom, which is this first expenditure? I know it's not a huge monthly fee, but I'm wondering, because a lot of record keeping was done in transparent classroom, will we need to maintain that, or will those, and this might be a question for transparent classroom. It's not really for you. I was just wondering if anyone knew the answer to this, because we probably have to keep records from transparent classroom.
Well, you're right about that, Bev. And if we do, then that's going to be an element of our transition, or I should say our closure plan, is to get our hands on and retain those records. That's something that I will defer to maybe Desiree on, or like you say, transparent classroom themselves. I don't have a better answer for that.
Okay,
other than, again, if we have data in their system, then we would need to retrieve it and archive it.
I'm making a note. Well, I'll follow up with Desiree on that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Let's see. Profit and loss, we've been through that. These are all the bills that we paid through accounts payable by way of Jewel Growth Partners. And yeah, we just looked at that. Let's see. And the payroll summary, we're going to see this drop, of course, substantially, not completely, maybe not even substantially, because a lot of the faculty are on year-round contracts. And I don't know the amounts of those off the top of my head, but some of it will disappear and won't be there anymore after this, unfortunately. And again, we have pays here, deductions there, and benefits. So 36,000 benefits 90,000 in salary. So we've got a ratio there of 30 or 40%. Again, that's pretty typical. The benefits would be about that ratio. No manual checks. We like that. Questions before I go on to the certifications? Okay. We will fill these in upon approval. But there is something I need to read to you for the board minutes. Okay, here we go. The following payments are audited and certified by the auditing officers required by RCW 42-24-080 and those expense reimbursements claims certified as required by RCW 42-24-090 are approved for payment. In addition, payroll payments in the amount of $71,554.73 are also approved. General fund accounts payable, electronic payments total $53,269.24 and no others. Everything was paid through electronic payments, no checks. That's what I was trying to get to. Non-AP cash disbursements, 1,034. Manual check numbers, no, and these would represent those credit cards. I'm seeing some different amounts that I didn't catch before. They're not significant amounts, but I would have to look into that. Before in that dashboard, we saw a different value, and there are some offsets there. I didn't spend the time looking at that. My apologies. And in payroll, all payments were electronic, no checks, $71,554.73. Okay. I probably shouldn't move to approve the financials myself since I'm so involved in them, but I would welcome somebody else to do so. Or if you have further questions, please.
Before we approve, do we want to look again at the non-AP cash disbursements to see what the difference was?
Okay, good point. So we have 103.4, 103.378 in electronic payments outside of accounts payable. And in the dashboard, we have, well, this is year to date, 32,000. Okay, I see. This is year to date. And this amount is for the month of May. Okay, that would be the difference. This is the month of May, and this 32K down here is year to date.
Can I just make a note that Robin is listed on these as a secretary instead of board chair?
Oh, down here, okay.
On several of them.
Yes, okay, I see that. We'll need to request a modification, or I can probably make it myself in Acrobat. Thank you, Bev.
Welcome.
Other questions? Okay.
I'll propose that we accept the financials as presented with those requested modifications to be made.
A second?
I'm sorry, who was that who seconded?
That was Robin.
Oh. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion passes. And then were there any other questions or comments regarding our financials that we'd like to cover before we move on to the meeting minutes approval?
Well, Michelle, how rude. I was blocking the VOP all this time.
Oh, I was hiding.
Okay.
All right. So, Bev, I have you down here as presenting the meeting minutes approval.
Okay. We're going to start. We've got quite a few because we've had quite a lot of meetings. We're going to start with 516. I'll propose that we accept the meeting minutes from 5/16/2024 as presented.
And then were there any questions or concerns with these before we move on? All right. So do I have a motion?
I just proposed.
Oh, sorry. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. And then on to 5:30.
I propose, this is Bev again, I propose that we accept the minutes from a meeting on 5:30 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, for the minutes, who seconded?
Michelle.
Michelle, thank you. Okay, going on to minutes from 6:3. I propose that we accept the minutes from 6:3 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that Stephanie?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All opposed? Motion passes. Onward.
Bev again. I propose that we accept the minutes from 6:4 as presented.
Second. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
So moving on to 6:13. I propose that we accept the minutes from 6:13 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
And
Yeah.
finally, the
Approved
minutes.
all of those minutes. Oh my gosh.
No, there's one more, I
Oh
think.
my gosh, there's one more. Is there?
Is there?
6:13
No.
was the last one.
Yes, 6:20. Yes, this is today's. That's all finished. Thank you.
Don't scare me. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
All right. And then we're gonna go on to public comments. Bev, I have you presenting that.
Okay. Welcome. If you'd like to make public comment, you'll be called in on the order you logged in and arrived. We generally allow 5 minutes for presentations of personal comments, questions, concerns, grievances. You can view our PCM grievance and conflict resolution policy and procedures. It is linked into the agenda. Public comment should be shared with the board in writing in advance of the board meeting for us to better address your consideration. You can email us at board@mypcm.org or submit it in paper form to the PCM office in the Gladish Community and Cultural Center. And you should receive confirmation of receipt of your written statement within 48 hours of submission. I did check the board email address earlier today, and there were no requests at the board at mypcm.org to make public comment. I don't know if there was any made in person or, through the office.
Was there anyone present at Gladish, Ellen, Jill, Efren, or Stephanie? Would like to make public comment?
Sorry, repeat that, please, Alan.
I'm here in Gladish. There's only the 4 of us on the board.
Okay.
Well, it looks like Laura McCormick has raised her hand. We'll go ahead and ask her to unmute. And then, would you like to keep time?
I'm just about to get my timer up. So Laura, I'm ready whenever you would like to begin.
Can you hear me? I wasn't able to unmute myself.
Oh, we got
Yes.
you. Hi. Thank you so much for presenting, Laura.
Oh, I have nothing to present. Most of my comments are just sort of extemporaneous. First of all, thank you for volunteering to serve on the board. But I did want to take a few moments to speak about my sense of sadness related to the school closure. Certainly, this is nothing that makes me happy. I really do wish that somebody had intervened at a time when could have made a difference. I originally came to Pullman after listening to the former head of school, Layla Baywick, make pitches about the enormous growth and opportunity at PCM. Before I came, I tried to look at board materials such as minutes, agendas, enrollment, and financial data. Nothing was available online. There was no way for me to ask for this information once I became an employee because Layla Baywick behaves in a retaliatory and punitive manner. And this is information that's been shared with you all previously, so I don't feel like it's anything new. I do wish somebody had taken the time to take the concern seriously and conduct an investigation. Over the past 17 months, I made a series of public records requests. The information I obtained increased my understanding of the myriad of financial and operational issues facing the school. The records also provided insight into deceptive practices utilized by Baywick to entice others to come to Pullman. The unaccountable head of school, empowered and enabled by a weak and ineffective board, led us to this juncture. And while these leadership failures have had the greatest impact on students and parents, I can say often overlooked is all the damage done to the folks who came to Pullman with open hearts, wanting to teach and create a community, a sense of community. I myself very much believe in Montessori and hope to see it blossom and grow. I would humbly ask you take the time to assess this damage rather than engaging in self-congratulatory affirmations. I am dismayed by what appears to be an unwillingness to speak about the many things that were not done in accordance with school and commission policy. I just don't know what it would take to get the board to really take this seriously. And I do believe, given the amount of public money that was spent at this school, it is appropriate to take the time and effort to do a real autopsy. How did we get here? And hold the folks that got us to this place accountable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you're able to send us a copy of your comments, that'd be really appreciated. That way we would have those on file to consider for the future.
I can't do that. I can't do that, Robin. I'm sorry. It was totally off. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation. Was there anyone else who would like to present public comments before we move on? All right. So onward to the closure team update and compliance check-in. Per PCM's chartered school contract with Commission, PCM trustee to regularly review the statement of assurances, which is included through this link, to ensure we are fulfilling our obligations to the contract. For public transparency, this is a copy of the Commission's Oversight Guidance Manual. As we are now in the process of closing the school and dissolving the 501c3 entity as part of the charter contract revocation process, this space will be utilized to discuss our progress related to this process. For public transparency, this is a copy of the Commission's Closing Guidance Handbook. So in the closure update, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the closure timeline, which I have attached in here. It's all the way at the bottom. I apologize. I have no printer here. I'm actually staying with family, so I'm working with what I got. That's a lot of meeting minutes. But basically at this point, our responsibility is to the staff and students and their families to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to get records transferred, to make sure that benefits are being addressed properly, and to make sure that any closing procedures related to their future success or well-being are being done. They are our number one priority. And that was really emphasized in our last meeting with our commission partners, was that there are other things happening and we want to make sure that we address everything, but first and foremost, our staff and families. So in our tasks, support students, families, and staff, followed by manage contracts. So in this process, we're notifying our creditors, ensuring that they understand that we're going to be entering into dissolution. and an attempt to make sure they all understand that we are not in any position to gain any more or any additional debt. So that's something that we're currently working with our back office support on. And just making sure that we're doing our due diligence and addressing everyone fairly and appropriately. And then managing assets. This is a piece that I know Desiree has been really deeply involved in as far as inventorying our current assets, forwarding that list to the DES, the Department of Enterprise Services, with the state. We're going to assign values and help us determine what's going to happen with these assets, the disposition. So if they're going to be sent to the DES for liquidation, or if we're going to address that at the school level. As far as I understand, we do not have an answer back on that yet. We're still in the process of submitting all the information to them. And we're going to be receiving that document in the future. And then I know there's a number of folks who are interested in procuring some of our Montessori specific items, and hopefully we'll be able to find good homes for them. I think that's, we definitely we want to make sure that, you know, we're doing it by the book, and that all of these things are taken care of appropriately. So I know there's a number of local people interested, and we'll definitely make sure we keep them updated as this process moves forward, if we're able to sell them, if it will be locally, and what that looks like. But we really don't know right now. So as far as list goes, and were there any questions on the Oh no, you're muted. Hold on, Bev.
So I just lost the sound from you for a while, just for a moment.
All right. So just went over the task list for our closure, addressing students and families first. Tracks. Can you hear me?
Cutting out.
I got nothing. I didn't do anything differently. Was everyone able to review the checklist that I included? Again, really emphasizing the importance of addressing families and staff first. Hugely important. As we're working through our asset list, there's a surplus procedure that we're going to be following. I attached an email, which goes over some of the procedures from when Desiree reached out to them and what that looks like. And then on the website where you can actually go and see more of the process and how it works, which I would recommend, what items they're able to help us with. And it gives us a bit of an understanding of what we're going to be left with in terms of resolving ourselves. And then in this process, Alan had drafted a public records request policy review, because at this point we want to make sure that we're addressing our records requests in a timely manner. And we want to make sure that we're prioritizing them and ensuring that we're doing so in good faith, practicing due diligence, maintaining transparency, which is what the whole public records request process is about. And that is attached. And Ellen, I will have you review that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. So I want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
I'm not seeing the draft of that as an attachment.
It is.
Did I do it again? You know what? When I attach something, I'm supposed to go through a procedure to make it available on the public portal. And did I forget to do that again?
Alan, could you use the microphone, please? Sorry.
Oh, yes. I did append it to the agenda, but I don't think I went through the step of making it available to the public view.
I'm not seeing it from on the board on track either. So it's
okay.
just what might have happened is if you're amending, the last step is you have to sort of, I think it's either right at the bottom, close or save. It won't or it doesn't save the changes you made.
Okay. So,
And also I have, maybe it's an older draft, but on mine it's page 51 of my packet. I might have
Okay.
downloaded where you added it.
Robin, are you saying that you have that document?
Well, it's in the packet I downloaded, but if you had gone in to change it, and it saved, otherwise I might have an older version, but my version is page 51, 59 in the packet.
Okay. Let's just see if I can see it. If not, I'll go through it verbally, but my apologies if I didn't do the right protocol here. There we go. Okay. It is here, but again, I don't think I posted it at the public portal, so my apologies for those who cannot see it. I'll go through the high points of it. It's a draft only. This is the first time many of you have seen it, but we are required to have a current public records request policy under the law, and given our significant change in circumstances, after talking with Robin, I drafted an update to it. Again, it's a draft form, not approved by the board. And in doing so, I modeled it after a couple of examples that were made available by another nonprofit that helps people guide through the public records law, using the cities of Snoqualmie and Othello as models. I didn't plagiarize, but I took inspiration from them. In the beginning, my draft policy states that we're a local public agency subject to the Washington Public Records Act, and there's a hyperlink in this document where you can refer to that if you wish. And according to that same RCW, Revised Code of Washington, we are required to respond to public requests. That is cited also. However, our policy states, as does the law, that we are not required to respond to questions, do research, or provide information that is not identifiable public record, nor to opine on the intent of parties contemporaneously involved with the identifiable public records. That makes difficult reading. What it means is we are required to provide responsive documents. However, we are not required to create new documents or to speculate on what was the intent of the parties at that time that those documents were created. Then, by way of background, the policy mentions that in March of this year, the former head of school was placed, who had served as public records office since the beginning, was placed on administrative leave. That left her unavailable. Therefore, our board chair, Robin, assumed the role of PRO in an ad hoc capacity, pending the return of replacement of the head of school. However, as we know, at the end of last month, March, the Washington Charter School Commission voted to revoke our charter. Therefore, there will be no head of school ongoing. And therefore, Robin, our chair, will continue to fulfill that role. And then we go on to say that public records requests will enter a queue whose schedule will depend on the nature and volume and availability. And we will categorize those into two different kinds of requests. Now we go into a few definitions. A public record means anything in writing, and that's broadly defined by the law as anything that you can see, including video, or hear, including audio, that's been owned, used, or retained by PCM. An identifiable record means something that we can identify and was existing at the time of the public's records request, and that our staff or contractors can locate after a reasonable search. And exempt records are exempted from disclosure by federal or state law, and there's a list of those. I have not added those to our policy. They're well defined by the law. We go on to define responsibility, and by the way, this policy is a good bit shorter than those whose business is ongoing. I'm trying not to just read the whole thing to you, but abstract it. Our public records officer is a volunteer chair of the board in lieu of now absent paid management staff. And she will accept, record, tabulate, and monitor PRRs and request searches for identifiable records from PCM staff, of which we now have one, or contractors, geo growth partners. In a minute, we describe which of those. Within 5 days, she will give you an acknowledgement. If she's unable to do that due to absence, travel, whatever, then she may designate the treasurer of the board, me, as temporary public records officer. Now, within the financial accounting system, searches for identifiable records will be conducted by our contractors, Jewel Growth Partners. The policy does not name them, that's not necessary or even appropriate, but by existing PCM contractors. And those searches will be within our instance of QuickBooks and directly related document repositories, which means things like photocopies of invoices and so on that are electronically filed and directly related to QuickBooks Online. On the other hand, searches for documents in this office in Pullman, such as physical written matter, or directly managed by PCM staff, such as email, will be conducted by PCM's sole remaining staff member without adversely affecting PCM's other ongoing activities. The law is pretty clear about that. We're allowed to not let PRRs interfere with our ongoing activities. In accordance with categorization of requests, which I'll get to in a moment. And I think Robin touched on this a little bit ago. Due to our financial status and wind down, we are unable to procure and compensate additional resources for the fulfillment of PRRs. Now, I mentioned earlier that we will categorize requests into two areas. One is immediate, the other is complex. Immediate PRRs, and this is where the law addresses those to some extent, and other agencies like city governments have gone into more detail. Those are immediately available and of a common nature. Responsive documents will be provided by an employer or contractor to the public records officer no sooner than 1 week after acknowledgement of the request, and no later than 1 month. Here's some examples of those: vendor invoices, like I mentioned, or emails with specific senders and or receivers with specific short timeframes. Complex PRRs, on the other hand, are, well, pretty much everything else of an expansive or all-inclusive nature, or those with limited available methods for searching. Things that require searching multiple areas, databases, or which are unclear. When we receive a request which is unclear, we will request clarification. If the requester is unable or willing to help narrow the scope of the request, we may deny those portions of the request, but go on to fulfill the rest. And regulatory guidelines allow for the assessment of compensation money for fulfillment of PRRs. We do not currently levy such charges. But if we get into a situation where incremental resources are required and we would have to pay those resources, then we may determine appropriate charges, and the law gives us some guidance on that. At this point, we don't anticipate the need. Preservation of public records, and I'm almost done here. Physical records will be retained here so long as our lease remains in effect, currently anticipated through mid to late July next month. Before we lose our office space, we anticipate shipment of physical records to the Washington State Charter Commission. I cannot assign tasks to them, of course. That's why I say we anticipate. I believe we've gotten indications that that will be the case, but I can't positively say that at this point. And release of online credentials necessary for forms of virtual records like email. And finally, virtual records located in our instance of QuickBooks and residing with Jewel Growth Partners will be made available to the Washington State Charter Commission to store in their IT infrastructure. Again, that's my assumption at this point, and it's supported by meetings with the Washington Charter Commission, but we have not finalized how that will be done or when. Last sentence: this policy will remain in force until it's superseded or repealed, or the 501c3 organization, Blues Community Montessori, is dissolved. Okay, that was a lot of recitation. My apologies, but believe me, it's shorter than most. Questions?
I think it's important to note that establishing clear expectations in this process is really important, especially as we move forward in the dissolution. Especially considering that soon we will not have any brick and mortar or possibly even electronic access to our records. So as we move forward with finalizing this and we partner with our legal counsel and the commission to make sure that everything's accurate and correct, I just think because there is a demand for information, I think it's important that we're clear and transparent with our process going forward, and we all know what to expect. So thank you so much, Alan, for drafting this. I feel like, unfortunately, and to Laura's point earlier, it's a shame that people didn't step in earlier with some of these issues, because this is something I've noticed a lot of different agencies have come across, where once they start receiving public records and they don't have a clear policy in place, they do need to adopt one, because without clear expectations or guidance, you end up running into problems or hiccups or slowdowns, or, I want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible throughout this. So that's very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Can I just raise a question here? It's just for all of us to consider. This is something I'm thinking of as well as like, a lot like our email addresses, our board email address, and also our individual board member email addresses are all managed through Board on Track. And I'm just wanted to put it out there that we will need some information from Board on Track about how those emails will be preserved, because I imagine once we end our contract with Board on Track, we will lose access to our individual board email addresses and also the board at my PCM. So I mean, if it's helpful, I'm just going to say I would volunteer to reach out to Board on Track and find out how those emails are, those past emails are stored, so that they would be available in the future if a public record request is for any of those emails.
Well, and to your point too, I mean, as we move through this process, once our Board on Track membership potentially goes away, we'll need to address how we're hosting, and creating our board agendas and our board meetings. So thank you. We need to figure out what that timeline looks like, because that'll be important as we move forward. Because I know we're at least here until August 31st. Possibly longer depending on approval processes and all of that, but August 31st seems pretty solid from what I understand as of right now. Yeah. And then
Recording stopped.
Oh no. I'm not going to say anything else. Alan, are you still there? Do we lose Alan? We're just going to sit tight until he gets back on. Not do anything. Okay.
Should I text?
Let me get Stephanie, because she's in the room with them.
Hey, we're just getting connected again. Sorry about that.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Once we start recording again, we'll commence. We're just about wrapped up.
All right. Yeah, we're Alan's working on it now. We noticed it at the last second. Here, I can give you the password to mine. If you click on Emerald Designs, it'll get you in.
That isn't the issue. My cell phone just didn't have the power to be an internet hotspot. It started on the as a hotspot.
Yeah, that's what I put in.
Okay,
Emerald Designs would be there.
very good. Okay, do you know what that is?
It's kind of complicated sometimes.
Thank you.
Just go here. I had to do that because I keep losing things on my phone. Did it not sign you in?
No, it is.
Uh-oh. Did I get kicked off? Okay. Let's see, I'm sure I had it on.
No.
Hmm.
Are you in the meeting now, Laura?
I'm in a meeting here.
Maybe I should pass this to you then. Is
I
that
can-
okay?
I can slide the computer over. It's a wonderfully thorough line spoiler.
Oh, you have it ready.
Would
Yeah, it's Windows.
would it help if I took over the recording? I have a record button so I can record it on my computer here at home. And then we'll have to share it, in two sections.
I think that may be easier because I don't know if I can.
Beth, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, profound apologies. All the low tech things to go wrong here. My cell phone was acting as my hotspot, didn't have enough power to see us through the meeting. My apologies. But Stephanie's saved the day.
Shall I record here at home?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to press
And we
record
can put
now.
together. We'll put together our two
need-
recordings.
Yes, but I will need permission to record to my device, so I'm sending the request to the host now.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Hooray! All right. Thank you so much. Gosh, I love computers. I would have volunteered to record, but I am super thrifty. That's why I own a grocery outlet. Mine doesn't have that much storage on it. So onward. The last piece, and Bev, we inadvertently skipped over this, but we need to make a motion to go back. It was on my list. The dissolution resolution.
Yes, let's just do that.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
I propose that we
To go back.
go back to address the missed issue from our agenda.
Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, didn't catch you.
Did I get an aye from Efren? Michelle?
Thank you.
Yeah. All opposed? Motion passes. So the resolution, the dissolution resolution included in here. I guess I'll just read over it. The Board of Directors, the Board of Pullman Community Montessori, a Washington nonprofit corporation, the corporation, hereby resolves as follows. Approval of dissolution and proposed plan of dissolution. Whereas the board believes it to be in the corporation's and the community's best interest to cease its operations, be dissolved, its affairs wound up, and its remaining assets distributed, and has voted to begin such process at its meeting on June 13th, 2024. Whereas the board has reviewed its assets and affairs and believes the plan of distribution attached as Exhibit A is the most efficient means to distribute and transfer its assets. Whereas the board has compiled a list of the assets attached as Exhibit B that are expected to be distributed in accordance with the plan of distribution. Whereas the board has hired Bill Kielbasa at Jewel Growth Partners as a special agent to assist with the dissolution of the corporation and desires for him to exercise limited authority on the corporation's behalf as directed by the above listed directors and officers, including the distribution of remaining assets and making payments to creditors. Resolved, the corporation shall cease its operations, be dissolved, and its affairs wound up. Resolved, the board hereby approves the plan of distribution as described in Exhibit A in accordance with its articles of incorporation and for the corporation's remaining assets, if any, to be distributed. Resolved, the officers of the corporation are hereby authorized to prepare and file the articles of dissolution, file the appropriate filings with state and federal authorities, provide notification to the corporation's creditors, and provide notification and submission to government officials required by RTW 24.03A.908. Resolved, Bill Kielbasa shall perform consulting services for the corporation for purposes of dissolution and shall be able to exercise limited authority on the corporation's behalf as directed by the above listed officers, including the distribution of remaining assets and making payments to creditors. General authority. Resolved further that the corporation's officers are authorized and empowered in the name and on behalf of the corporation to take any other action reasonably necessary to achieve the foregoing resolutions, including actions to execute, certify, file, and record such additional agreements, documents, and instruments as may be or become reasonably necessary or convenient to carry out and put into effect the purposes of the foregoing resolutions. And the certification is on the following page. The undersigned hereby certifies they are the Secretary of PCM, that's you, Bev, a corporation organized and existing under the laws of the state of Washington, that the foregoing is a true and correct copy of the resolutions duly approved by the affirmative voting of the majority of the board of directors, of the directors of the board of directors at a meeting of the board of directors for PCM held on June 13th, 2024, at which meeting a quorum was at all times present and acting, and that the resolutions are in full force and effect. So Bev will have you sign that and return it to Jacob. And then exhibit. Oh, yep.
Yeah, so one is my name spelled wrong, as it's an official document. That should be corrected.
Okay.
And second, are we going to vote on this tonight?
This was, this is the resolution of dissolution based on our vote that we resolved to dissolve the corporation.
Okay, we did it the last
13th.
meeting. Yeah.
This is just putting it all on paper from what Jacob at APEC was explaining.
Okay, just a question about timing, because we haven't got that inventory list, which is listed in this document. It's not complete yet. Shall I wait? Because otherwise I'll feel like I shouldn't sign something where it's saying it's attached when it isn't attached.
So that's where, when you look at Exhibit B, the cash remaining in our bank accounts is estimated to be zero after closing costs and settling with creditors. And an estimated 150,000 in fixed assets, which would be like the technology and the furniture that Desiree's inventory.
Okay.
So that would be the inventory of the remaining assets.
Okay.
Just based in dollars.
Okay, that makes sense. I was thinking that, as we were just earlier talking about the complete inventory list, I was wondering if that was what. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that really it's going to be more of a financial inventory than a physical inventory. Okay. Just keep simple, because ultimately we're going to end with money to pay off our debts, and not things. So ending inventory would be dollars.
Okay.
Yeah. So Exhibit
Thank you.
A, the plan of distribution in accordance with its articles of incorporation, Coleman Community Montessori, the corporation, plans to distribute all of its remaining net assets, one or more organizations or entities exempt from taxation pursuant 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code or corresponding section of any future federal tax code, or to the federal government or to a state or local government for a public purpose. So I'm ideal. The plan is we would basically give these things to another charter school, donate them to another entity, or give them to the state or federal government. Which, if we're able to liquidate some of those assets, the idea is that then we would use that funding to pay the state, or pay our creditors, and then whatever remains we would distribute. So that, I want to make sure I covered that before we were done. Were there any other questions about this? And I will do my best to answer them. At this point, I think we're on to other business, where right before we close up.
I do have some, it's just really a clarification from our last board meeting, because at our last board meeting, a couple of questions came up that we didn't have answers to. And I said I would research them and let everyone know. And I have given individual board members this already, but for members of our community were there and heard us discussing and not being sure of these answers, I just wanted to give it an update. So we had some questions about our bylaws and dissolving a committee. Specifically, we were talking about a finance committee, and we wondered how that would happen, because the finance committee is a standing committee of the PCM board. And this is what I found out from my bylaws, is that, yes, first of all, the finance committee is a standing committee of the board. And second, the board of trustees shall have the ability to dissolve any standing or ad hoc committee by a majority vote of the full board of trustees. So it does not require a change in the bylaw. That was the question that came up. Also, so we don't need any written notice or change to the bylaws needs to be made if we wanted to dissolve the finance committee or any other committee. We already have that authority. And then I also looked into, so in the future, because it came up, like, how do we change our bylaws? According to our bylaws, it says a majority of the entire board of trustees shall have the power to make, alter, amend, and repeal the bylaws of the corporation. So it didn't come up in this meeting, but if we were wanting to dissolve the finance committee, we can do that with a simple vote. And we can also save it for the upcoming meeting, but at least we know now how we're to do it according to our bylaws.
I'll add that on for our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. No problem, Alan.
All right. And I just want to mention, throughout this process, as we're working through the closure, it is our number one priority to address the needs of our staff and our families, and to make sure that student records are being compiled and transferred to the right places, that we're putting our records together and sending them off correctly, cataloging, inventorying. There's a lot of work to be done. And just touching on that public records request, it's something that I felt obliged to move to the top of my list. And it's, as a volunteer, it takes a lot of my time, and it's time I'm giving willingly. I'm not complaining. I'm not unhappy about this, but I also need to make sure that I'm putting my priorities in place, and I'm addressing Desiree's needs as the last standing employee at the school, and that I'm communicating with commission partners, and I'm addressing our checklist for the closure process, and I'm talking to all the correct parties when it comes to making sure our staff are finding their forever homes moving on from this, and that our families are being taken care of. So I just need to make sure that I'm addressing things in the correct order, and that I am making sure that the closing process and the people involved in it are being taken care of. First and foremost, I want to assure everyone that all things will be addressed. And our goal is to make sure that, and it'll be run to the finish line, all of our outstanding public records requests are addressed by August 31st. That is our ideal goal. And I am chipping away at those as quickly as possible, but again, with respect to my other duties. And that's a wish, that's a desire, that's a want. I want to make sure I get this done before dissolution is in effect. So that is my personal goal. And then I will respond as I'm supposed to as they come in. And I just want everyone out there listening to understand that I value your time and your input, and I really appreciate it. And I'll make sure, again, that records are provided as quickly as I am able to after they are reviewed properly and prepared for you. Thank you. Other than that, are there any more questions, comments, concerns? Alan, Michelle, Stephanie, Efren, Bev? Okay. Can I get, it's time to adjourn then. May I get a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second? Do you have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Sorry,
Okay,
yet again, I have to ask who seconded as I'm keeping the minutes.
Michelle seconded.
Michelle, thank you.
So the motion passes. We will adjourn this meeting of the Pullman Community Montessori Board of Trustees on 6/20/2024 at 6:32 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming, and you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin. Good evening.